IVM.
So it's been a great week on IVM, and I hope that you're listening to as many shows as you can. If you're not following us on social media, we're on IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. First, I'm going to tell you about a few new shows that we launched. Last week, we launched a show called Marbles Lost and Found with Zain and Avanti. It's a show about mental health, which I think is a fairly interesting conversation to have, and you should enjoy it. We also have a new fictional fun storytelling show for all of our listeners. Croc Tales by Anand Sivakumaran is a bi-weekly show where Anand spins a story from a prompt that could be a word or phrase coming from you. Catch these episodes every Monday and Thursday. On Simplified this week, the trio dig further into the FIFA World Cup history with some trivia and silly jokes on a longer episode. On The Scene of the Unseen, Amit Verma is joined by stand-up comedians Aditi Mittal and Abbas Momin to talk about the pros and the cons of the Indian comedy scene. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus does an exit interview with his producer Naveen Narona. Naveen's going to be terribly missed around here. If you're not following him, please follow him on Twitter and Instagram. He's at House of Narona. Try and listen to as many of these shows as you can. And now, on to your show.
On this episode of the Geek Fruit Podcast, I have Tejas with me, and we are talking about film scores, which is the thematic elements of a cinema that you will hear and instantly be transported into those very scenes. So we're going to talk about why these stand out on their own and how they function along with the movie. And we're going to name some of our favorites and some of the ones we think are the most underrated right after this break.
Yeah. It's IVM here, let's go. We the IVM kids on the block over here. Just to talk, taking a break from producing all day. Coming on this podcast cause we got stuff to say. IVM Daily is the name of the show. Monday to Friday, we ready to go. Talking about stuff in our head. We might even talk about our favorite bread. Signing out, it's IVM here, the podcast network that's in your ear.
Catch IVM Daily, Monday to Friday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Geek Fruit Podcast.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Dinkar.
Yes.
Hi, welcome back.
And everyone else as well, right?
And everybody else.
Yeah.
Welcome back from the Middle East tour that you just went for.
Yes, I went all over the Middle East, but specifically to just one city.
Doha?
Yes.
How was it?
It was great. I live right next to the World Cup stadium, so I'm 4 years early.
It's like, snap, wrong World Cup.
Yeah, I landed up and I was like, wait, you guys are still constructing? How are we going to play this match today, guys? Hurry it up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But what's the nerd presence in Qatar?
There was one last week, is what I can tell you.
Okay.
Other than that,
population now
I went to
zero.
a mall that had these pretty cool giant figures of Iron Man and the Hulk and
nice.
various characters from
You
the
mean
Marvel.
Hamleys?
No, I mean Hamleys, but Hamleys has Lego versions, correct?
No, they have legit, like, in
Right,
fact,
yeah, they do.
there's a new store also which is in Lower Parel next to the erstwhile Blue Frog.
Okay.
Which is called Entertainment Store.
The entertainment store?
Yes.
Yeah, they're from Bangalore.
Wow, excellent store. It's like it's a dream.
It's
come
great,
true
yeah.
For nerds. And
It's,
there's a-
I've always bought stuff from them. I've always looked up their stuff online.
Online, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the physical store is quite impressive. They have a
Nice.
huge like Arkham Knight style Batman.
Sweet.
Yeah, which is there. So yeah. So Doha, you can take that and do whatever you want with it.
True.
But what are we talking about today, then, Kar?
We are talking about movie soundtracks, movie scores. I
Movie
should say.
scores, yeah. Film scores. You can't put movie scores together. It's like saying it's like a movie pass or movie fan.
A movie, yeah. A film score.
A film score sounds elite.
It sounds very elite. A
And
film
it is
composer.
a film composer.
Original soundtrack is a separate thing.
Okay,
though.
so tell me, what's the difference between is it original soundtrack? Does original soundtrack also count the music and
That's
the songs
thing.
which are featured?
I'm not okay. So the distinction we're drawing for our listeners is basically movies typically have a film score, which is your cinematic, orchestral, typically music,
Yeah.
as well as pop songs they play.
Right.
Like for example, in the Batman movie with Prince,
Right.
a lot of the score is
Batman,
Prince's
yeah.
songs, like
Correct.
Bat Dance,
Bat Dance, yeah.
Vicky Vale.
Yes.
But also there's a Danny Elfman theme and incidental music throughout.
And there's also a Prince album called Batman.
Correct,
Yes.
which was the thing for the year. So
Yeah.
the distinction we're making is between the songs with the words, I want to say, and
Well,
the score.
Well, yeah, what you'd consider to be that orchestral score, you know,
Correct,
like, yeah.
yes.
So I think that what kind of really kind of builds the bridges between scenes and stuff.
So we're saying we don't know which is called which, but basically we're calling them OST and film score,
let's go with film score today.
right?
And I think our next episode shall be about original soundtracks.
I cannot wait
Yes.
for
This
this
is a-
episode.
this is
The
a
other
good-
one I can wait for.
Well, you'll have to.
Yeah, apparently.
So we're going to talk about, we're going to try and divide this episode. So the thing is that we've already done an episode on John Williams, right? You and Jishnu have done one.
Yeah.
So I want to say, let us stray a moment from Mr. John Williams. I think
He has refined a lot of our...
He has,
Yeah.
and I think his body of work is so impressive, and it's so much like, you know, it's like so larger than life that it is the number one thing that comes to mind when you think about film scores, whether it's Star Wars, Indiana Jones, or what have you.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment and not discuss John Williams. I think we can, you know, mention him in passing, obviously, because he's just so unavoidable in this space.
That's true.
But
Like, 3 of my choices are already out.
oh yeah,
I mean,
okay, let's go with them. Let's
no,
start.
no,
with
no,
it.
no. Oh, okay. Are we doing this?
Because I wanted to kind of divide our show into talking about perhaps what are the most underrated scores in pop culture, sci-fi, fantasy, adventure, action,
Everything,
superhero.
basically, then, yes.
No, not regular films.
Regular films.
Regular films with no time travel.
Yeah.
And we can also separate into what we overall consider to be some of the best.
Sounds
scores.
good.
Yeah,
I like
and
this.
we can mention Mr. Williams then.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because I mean, if we don't, that's blasphemy.
That's yeah. You
Yeah.
can't not do that.
So let us open with film scores. Do you
All
think I had this thought? I had this thought that most of my choices in my list are from movies that are about 15 years old.
That is true.
And-
because they've become the soundtrack to your life
Correct.
in a lot of ways.
Is that the reason? Do you think we're like, I was reading this thing about like songs and stuff, and apparently everything that you listen to from the ages of 14 to 18 are probably the songs that you will continue listening to for the rest of your life. Like that genre and stuff is what you're going to be most influenced by. I'm saying for a general populace,
Yeah.
right? Do you
We
think...
are elites.
Yes, we are. To say that we are better than other people.
Yes.
But having said that, do you think it's the same thing for film scores?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think even though we try and make an effort and listen to new music and new cinema and consume new pop culture, what you consume in your teens will always have like a pull that you can't quite get rid of for
Yeah.
most of your life. This is why we love Batman Forever, and also because it's the greatest movie of all time.
Okay,
of
correct.
course.
It's the greatest Batman movie
Yeah,
of all
greatest
time
Batman
also.
movie of all time also. But yeah, there is always a pull. I have a confession to make. I've
Yeah.
always had
Are you still my fool? But go ahead.
So, I've always had a case of, you know how face blindness is a thing?
What?
Yeah, face blindness is where you look at people's faces and you can't recognize them. It's an actual medical condition.
You can't recognize them or you can't remember their names?
You
Because I
can't
have that.
You can't tell faces apart, basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like Tracy Jordan in 30 Rock.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or like Marky Bark in season 4 of Arrested Development.
Okay.
It's a weird season.
Yes.
But yeah, I have soundtrack deafness, I want to say. Because
What are you saying?
like I have soundtracks that stand out for me, but a lot of the time I don't notice them, which is kind of their function also. But themes don't stick out to me a lot. It's not anything to do with themes probably, because they're partly fulfilling their intention. I kind of hear orchestral scores and I go like, tick mark, orchestral scores. Yeah.
Come on. Okay, I'll tell you why. Maybe there's a reason
It's not a
for that.
severe case, I'll tell you that. It's not like I can't tell anything apart. But for the most part, like when we started putting together our choices for this episode,
Right.
I had to rack my brains a bit and go like, what was the soundtrack of this movie? Because
But-
I know I enjoyed it, but I can't hum it back.
Okay, so I did something similar, and I also had to kind of, just go through like different movies and different lists and see what I liked and did not. And I always did this one thing where I tried to remember what it was, and sometimes I could, sometimes I couldn't. But even after I pressed play and I heard it, I was like, yes, that is what it was, and I got like
Correct.
chills, So
Yes.
it's like it is
So
there in my brain.
They have
for
a
feel.
very different function, and I suppose that's why we have a very different relationship with them than songs. So I think it'll be interesting when we go over our choices to see how many of them we treat like songs, because some of mine I know are like there's a very tangible melody to it.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
definitely. I also may think, is it because we have had such a slate of films, like just an explosion of like films like which are in the superhero genre more than others, and sci-fi I think has been coming back in a big way. So do you think it's because we've had so many, it's just like an overdose of different themes and scores and now kind of all overlapping each other?
There's a lot of there's less signal to noise in our
yes, it's true.
The ratios are.
Did you ever end up watching
because
that?
At this point you could probably you could have an AI create superhero theme song at this point.
But some are good. There was this video essay that came out called a Marvel Cinematic this Marvel Symphonic Universe. So I think
the Marvel Symphonic Universe has a problem or something like that.
Yeah, and basically it just the overview of that was just that there's no distinct kind of themes that are being created because they're just servicing the scenes in like how they're supposed to be. Like an example that the creator made was that about the movie Thor and how in Thor, if Thor is happy, then the music is happy, or if Thor is sad, or if he's surprised, that's exactly the same kind of music. So it's not really adding any value to it.
They fill the soundscape, but they don't stick out enough.
They don't. It's not used judiciously.
The one exception, and I agree with that for the most part, the one exception probably is the Avengers theme.
So the Avengers theme is obviously very distinct, but it's also the biggest movie out of all of them. So it's and that no one will ever forget that 360 shot where the music cues in, and it is a good theme. Alan Silvestri did it in the first film, so it has some recall value, and it is good. I think it's a great theme. I think it really is, and like especially since they've been experimenting with it and changing it up, especially for Infinity War and things like that. They brought it back in the trailers, which was also interesting. So I think that one is obviously very distinct, but the other movies are not bad at all. I mean, I think we've been kind of harsh on the Marvel universe. Like a lot of people say, and I think maybe
they're
the first few films.
Yeah.
For example, and this is not part of my list or anything like that, but I think two films that I can remember the themes for. One was for Ant-Man, which had this very classic kind of
like
feel
a very
to it.
Jazzy almost.
Yeah, it was very like almost like a Michael Giacchino kind of.
Yeah.
I don't think he did. I think Christoph Beck did it.
Oh, really?
So he did that, and even the Scott Derrickson film, Doctor Strange, had a very cool kind of 70s, almost Beatles.
Yes, like a very psychedelic,
kind
which
of
again fit with the theme.
It was perfect, like the Doors.
I don't distinctly recall it. I do remember that the first Iron Man had this very like
Ramin Djawadi.
It had like a slightly industrial, like it had a lot. It felt metal, not
it
in
had
the
like,
genre
it
sense.
It had rock guitars and stuff.
It was like industrial inspired, I want to say.
Do you play rock guitars?
I love rock guitars.
Rock guitars are great. But I use ones that are made out of plastic. But anyway,
mine is from the Flintstones era. It's pretty vintage.
Oh man, I'm sure we can come up with a Flintstones themed rock star singer's name. I'm sure there was also.
There have been, right? Like in
Rock
the
Vegas,
movie,
in Viva Rock Vegas.
in Viva Rock Vegas, they meet their equivalent of Elvis Presley.
Mick Jagged. Is that in it?
Rock Jacket. No, that's too far.
Oh god. Okay, cool. So I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been, obviously been hit bad by people saying, DC movies have real themes, and it's true. I think the DC movies have
that is true.
Done better themes because they've had Hans Zimmer on board, and that guy's he's a maestro. He's featured on some of my selections. Yeah. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and talk about the underrated scores.
Yeah.
Which you think that people don't pay attention to.
Fair.
And should.
Shunyawan, 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 Shunyawan. $1 billion acquisition. Another copycat startup got formed.
No, the tech world in India is surely moving double the speed of this voiceover.
Tune in to Shunya One every Tuesday to catch us talking to the smartest people we know on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast. Everyone's got these chains to break, and we are talking movie soundtracks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to be talking about underrated film scores.
Yes.
What's your first pick, I'd say, for the underrated film scores?
For underrated film scores, I don't know if this is underrated as such, but I felt like in the noise around the movie, this was paid less attention to. The Black Panther soundtrack.
Oh, dude, but
Because-
the Black Panther soundtrack was excellent. The Ludwig
Göransson.
yeah.
It was fantastic, I think, but it was kind of overshadowed by the movie and by the Kendrick Lamar album. I think people should listen to the soundtrack because it's weird and cool
It
as
is
shit.
weird, yeah. It had
So-
that really weird time signature, that da-da-dun,
Yeah,
da-da-dun.
and there is this thing where so there's a podcast called Song Exploder
Yeah.
where Ludwig kind of pulls apart how he created the theme. So he went to Africa and he was like he met these musicians and he had them like he kind of gave them the gist of what they were doing and he said like do your thing. So
Yeah,
he's
because
like
he's like a white Swedish dude, if I'm not mistaken, right?
a Swedish dude.
Yeah.
So at some point, apparently, they played like well over 4-5 hours into the early hours of morning.
Right.
And at one point, one of the dudes just stood up and started shouting like "T'Challa, T'Challa," and that's in the soundtrack.
Neat.
And then what I really like is he takes those traditional African things and
Right.
mixes them a lot with American black
production.
culture. So
Oh,
there's
sweet.
there's 808s and there's like trap
Sick.
hats and stuff
Sick,
like
sick.
that.
Yeah,
And
I love those trap hats. Every time Black Panther basically does something cool, like
it's
those
like
hats kick in.
There's I'm going to play some of it so our listeners
it.
don't have to deal with that. This has nothing of what we just said. Wait, I'm going to skip ahead.
Yeah,
a
you'll have
bit.
to skip it, it's fine.
So you see how it incorporates a lot of superhero stuff,
Yeah.
which is your epic strings, along with those weird African little drums, and a little later, of course, the electronic elements come in. So
Yeah, it's perfectly
he brings
made,
together
yeah.
a lot of things
Yeah.
and does it really well. So I mean, everyone knows it's a great. It's a great film score, but I feel like it kind of got lost because there were so many excellent things about that movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is my pick
Nice.
number one.
No, that's a solid pick. I think also, mostly for all the reasons that you stated, which is that he's kind of combined two different cultures.
Yeah.
And also given it that grandiose kind of superhero space, which is cool, man. I dig that. So, I will move on to my pick. This is completely different from what you've chosen. It's from a movie which I consider to be the first superhero movie, like
Of all time?
No, not really. I mean, like it's kind of like this started a chain of events. I want to say.
Okay.
It's X-Men from the year 2000.
Huh.
Yes.
Okay.
The first X-Men.
Right.
I know Batman movies came out before that, but I don't know. There's something about
The
a
first
shared
of our
universe.
modern era.
Yes,
Yeah,
I want to say that
agree
this
there.
one kind
This
of
was what,
kicked it off.
2000?
2000, yeah. And it had the great late composer Michael Kamen, who also did Symphony and Metallica.
All right.
Yeah. So Michael Kamen did this score, and obviously Bryan
He
Singer.
came and did the score.
Yes. Yeah, he came and did the score.
Yeah.
And in fact, in the credits, he's listed as K-men. Like
Really?
X-Men. Yeah. So, but apparently he and Bryan Singer fought over, the direction for the score, and he wanted to be a much more operatic kind of thing. But he had to dial it down. But he still managed to sneak in
Wait,
some.
who wanted it to be operatic?
Michael Kamen wanted
Right.
to be far more operatic than it ended up being.
Okay.
But I still think that, he managed to kind of sneak in some really, really beautiful kind of classical themes in this film. And this one kind of just gives me chills. This is right at the end of the film. It's when they're on the top of the Statue of Liberty and Rogue is kind of, almost dying. I think she's almost dying, yeah.
Yeah.
And so Wolverine kind of sacrifices his life by placing her hand and
yeah,
absorbing his healing factor into her. So this is the theme. It's called Logan and Rogue, and it is friggin' beautiful, I think. Casual fade out.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So weird though. Like when I think X-Men, I think this theme. I think
Really?
if I think about like what the sonic space would be for like mutants and this X-Men world, I think of this first movie.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
think X-Men, I think of literally the exact scene we're discussing, and I
Yeah.
didn't remember this theme separately.
Yeah.
But as soon as you played it, I'm back there.
Ooh, wow. And it's like chills, man. Because
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
it's
it's great.
really grand. It's really beautiful. And it's like, I don't know how he's managed to kind of convey the exact kind of sacrifice that is going on in
Yeah.
this scene, but it's done perfectly. And man, I just think of like Hugh Jackman being a boss. Like it's great. Yeah. So this is definitely up there in what I consider to be quite underrated. And then, after this, Michael Kamen passed away. So we never got to hear any more music. So this is kind of fitting.
Who did the next few X-Men movies?
So the next one was done by John Ottman.
Okay.
Which was, the X-Men suite is actually really nice. It's pretty sweet. And the third one was done, I cannot remember by whom. I want to say Tyler Bates, but I'm not sure.
All right.
So yeah, but I think, I mean, this is the one that kind of really sticks in my brain. I don't know if you remember the intro to X-Men. It was like this voiceover by Patrick Stewart, and you know, it's all these graphics and all that stuff. And there's a theme that plays there, which is also equally good. So yeah,
I don't recall it, but yeah, I'm sure as soon as we hear it, you're back there.
Yeah.
So yeah, good choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to, I'm also going to do one from back in the day then,
Yes.
but relevant to today because I'm talking about The Incredibles.
It's on my list.
Is it on your list?
It's actually on my best of list.
Is it? Don't
Yeah.
you feel like it's underrated? Because
Yeah, it could be underrated. Like the film, I think. I mean,
no, is the film underrated?
I mean, it's
Maybe.
not underrated, but it...
Not enough people remember. Maybe because it was like
Why
10
Janam
years
had
ago.
not seen, our producer had not seen the movie at all. And only saw it a few days ago.
It's pretty old at
Yeah.
this point.
It's about 14 years old.
14 years old?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
2004 is when it came out. And the
Yeesh.
sequel is now. Like literally this weekend is coming out.
And it continues off the same, like it literally picks up where the previous one left off. from what I know.
So which is weird because Dash is now like a man, the guy who played the kid in that movie. So,
So
it's
have they
strange.
recast it?
They had to, yeah. The same thing what they did for Finding Nemo, for Finding Dory, sorry. They had to cast Nemo again.
Yeah.
They had to find Nemo. Oh my god, what an amazing opportunity. I hope somebody in casting had the good sense to do that.
So yes, this is a theme by Michael Giacchino. And what I really
Giacchino.
like... Giacchino.
Yes.
Is that how you say
I
it?
had to find the...
Giacchino.
I had to Google it.
And yet you don't say Joaquin Phoenix. What is this world? So, Michael Giacchino, he put together this pastiche of old spy movies, I want to say, more than superhero movies,
It's
which
so
I really like.
interesting. So we watched it again recently, and it is such a James Bondian kind
It
of vibe
is,
to
yes.
a superhero thing, which is like the
Which
only
is really
time
cool, right?
I've ever seen that kind of crossover of genres. But go ahead. Yeah.
So, yeah, that is Michael
My
Giacchino.
favorite part of that score, I didn't think we got to it, but it was that...
Yeah, that comes up a little later.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, great theme actually.
That's the one that really sticks out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just to give our listeners a feel. And
Yeah, definitely.
You can see how it's this like fast-paced, breezy thing, which I think really helps with the movie as well.
Right.
It just feels like it's like a spy movie, a heist movie.
Yeah.
It feels like very similar to the Ant-Man theme,
Ant-Man
of course.
exactly, yeah.
Which
This is
we
what I
discussed
was
earlier.
going for. Yeah, man, great selection. Do you think Michael Giacchino, I mean, so I think he's done more than 3 Pixar films, but all 3 are excellent. So I don't think we'll have time to play all of them.
Yeah,
But
probably.
he's done Ratatouille, and
Which
he's
is
done
great music.
and he's
yeah.
done Up also, which, man, a lot of the story is conveyed through music
Up
in that film.
entire the music in those first 10 minutes
Yeah.
is heartbreaking.
Man, it is.
I mean, the entire story is, of course, but
Yeah.
the music is so perfect for it.
Yeah.
And like another great emotional cue is in Ratatouille when Anton Ego tries the Ratatouille.
The Ratatouille, brilliant.
He
film.
flashes back to his childhood. The music cue again,
Amazing.
stunning.
And sorry, I just want to put this one in there since we're talking Pixar films. And I wish I could play it, but we don't have the time. Thomas Newman's soundtrack for WALL-E
Yeah, I was just
is
gonna say.
just
And
fantastic.
These movies rely so much on the music
Yeah.
because large sections of them are wordless.
Yeah, man.
The entirety,
Insane.
I mean, most of WALL-E is wordless.
Yeah.
Those first 10 minutes of Up are wordless.
Yeah,
And
so good.
The fact that you can use the soundtrack, the film score as this, like as the only audio connect with your viewer is, I mean, it's a testament to how great these scores are.
Yeah, man. And I don't know, like, I think it's something about Pixar also, man. Like, I know we'll be doing an Incredibles episode, but man, just the fact that they're so tuned into what the vibe needs to be. Like, it's kind of the opposite of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe was, being blamed for,
True.
Like, yeah, so, yeah, just amazing music. I'm going to move on to, how many more should we do? Should we just do...
As many as you want. I've got a couple more.
I have one more.
We could do this all day, yeah.
This is true. So I have one more. Maybe we'll do one more each.
Okay.
So my next selection is a pretty underrated score from an equally underrated movie. I think we've talked about this perhaps in one of our sci-fi under the radar episodes. This movie is by M. Night Shyamalan. It's called Unbreakable.
Ah, nice.
And the whole if you've seen Unbreakable, the story is M. Night's take on the superhero genre and how it would actually exist. This is his Bhavesh Joshi, if you will, right? Like, this is his interpretation of the entire genre. And it's so it's really cool. They're very, there are a lot of, these little nods to original superhero films. Like, the fact that his name is David Dunn, which is like an alliteration, which, like a lot of superhero
thing,
identities
yes.
have, like a Clark Kent. I mean, even though those are two separate letters, but like a Peter
Phonetic
Parker.
alphabet.
Yes, Bruce Banner, etc.
Then Kadwedi.
In this movie, his name is David Dunn.
Yeah.
So there's that. At the end of the movie, he gets like a costume. He has a weakness. So there's so many things that are really
he finds a supervillain.
And there is a superhero score also, which is buried in the film, and it kind of rises to the occasion when it needs to. I think this is a brilliant score. So this is by James Newton Howard, who also did, I think, the first two Batman Chris Nolan films. Batman Begins. He did it with Hans Zimmer. So this is an excellent score.
That is epic.
That's so epic. It's one of my favorites, man.
It feels like a reprise of a superhero soundtrack.
Like,
movie.
but it's kind of cool. I mean, the fact that he's like a 40-year-old man who's like not a superhero all his life, and he realizes that he has his gift. It perfectly encapsulates what the movie is about. I think.
Yeah, it definitely does, and that's a great movie. And I believe it ties into Split, which I still haven't seen.
Man, you gotta, dude.
I know.
You gotta.
I will get to it perhaps this weekend. All right, I'm gonna. Moving on, I'm going to talk about another underrated soundtrack from Johan Johansson, who passed away recently.
Right,
in in the start of this year, I want to say Jan or Feb or something.
Yeah,
and he was only 48.
What a shame!
What a shame! Yeah, and I don't think they ever figured out how, right? Because they just kind of found him dead in his apartment.
All I know is that it had a kind of a weird ending to it because he was not called on to do. David Villeneuve's, Denis Villeneuve's new film.
And he wasn't?
He wasn't, which was so strange because, he's been a constant collaborator for a long time.
Yeah, they've done all their movies together.
So I think, there may have been something that was happening in his life that we just didn't know about. Yeah. Maybe he was
What
not
is
in the
Denis' next movie?
I think he's doing Dune, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, right, yeah. So, and that doesn't have, obviously now it doesn't.
Here's the thing. In Blade Runner, the music was supposed to be done by Johan Johansson, but No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Are you sure?
Yes. I'll just look it up.
Yeah,
but I think he did.
Oh, there was some project where he was replaced.
He was working on the Christopher Robin movie, which is forthcoming.
Oh man, I'm so
excited. And apparently he
for that.
didn't finish it, but they are using a lot of his stuff. And yes, it seems he did do Blade Runner 2049. Oh, but they didn't use the music.
Yeah, they didn't.
That's weird.
Yeah, and Hans Zimmer did it. Yes, and Benjamin Wallfish.
That is really odd.
Yeah, so that's what I found really strange because he was replaced mid-production. And then after that, we just didn't hear about him. We didn't hear any news. And then the next thing we heard is that he killed himself. So that it was just...
that is sad and strange. He was an eccentric guy. So I'm going to play something from... I feel like his underrated work is his soundtrack for Arrival, which... if you remember while watching the movie also, it's just so weird, that entire soundtrack.
Yeah.
It sticks out especially because it's so strange. It's unlike any film score I've ever heard.
All right, let's hear this. I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah, this is a song with the catchy name of Heptapod B.
Nice. That is fantastic.
This is so weird, right?
It is fantastic.
It sounds like everything is malfunctioning, nothing's in time. There's another great Song Exploder episode on which he speaks about how he created this. I think this track in particular.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was him banging on hollow tree trunks and malfunctioning synthesizers. It's just so weird.
Wow.
And it fits perfectly with a movie that's about
something weird,
as weird as Arrival.
Yeah.
And it ties into the theme of the movie beautifully as well. There are vocal inflections in those things because the movie is about language, really.
That's brilliant.
And
I love
about
that.
aliens, and this is the most alien thing I've ever heard.
Oh man, yeah, that is some exceptional work. Wow, that's excellent. Let us take a break.
All right.
We'll come back and we're just going to do the best scores.
All right.
Now, enough underrated stuff.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about the big guys.
The best of you, one might say.
Did I just catch you on your way to work? Or did you end up pulling an all-nighter? Let me guess. You have a packed schedule for the day, the week, and probably the month and the year. That's a lot for your mind to handle, don't you think? This buzzing chaos also brings tons of negative thoughts. Am I right? Try spinning that bottle in a positive direction with me, Chetna, on the Positively Unlimited podcast, every Monday on IBM Podcasts. It's time to change your life one alphabet at a time.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast. We are talking about now the best soundtracks of all time. I keep saying soundtracks, but I mean film scores, which is an arbitrary distinction we drew. But yeah, there's going to be like a lot of the greatest hits of all time of our lives.
I feel like we're invariably going to miss out some because there are too many great scores.
There's great scores,
but we're just going to pick the ones that we really love.
We're going to pick 4 score.
No.
6 score?
6 score.
6 score, which is 120 as everybody knows. So, what is your first pick, Tejas?
So my first pick, I'm going to go with a variation of a theme that we're very familiar with.
Okay.
So, the original theme, obviously, I'm picking Danny Elfman's Batman theme from the original Batman.
Nice.
Which made its way into being the theme for the Batman animated series, which, as you know, is one of our favorite series of all time.
And which version are you picking?
I am picking the Mask of the Phantasm version,
Ooh.
which was done by Shirley Walker. Now, this was a theme that started the entire film. Just check it out.
Nice. I can see the Batman logo floating into space.
It's the fact that there's got like an entire, vocal choir just singing the notes out. And apparently, here's a bit of trivia, that the words that they're singing are just the names of the entire crew, but in reverse.
Really?
Yes.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
So the hiding reverse messages is true, except they're not about devil worship. They're just like
it's like Andrea Romano
small Easter eggs.
Yes.
All right. I am going to give you one of the greatest theme songs of all time, just because
theme scores
of all time. The main theme, shall we say, which is a Hans Zimmer.
Okay.
Pirates of the Caribbean. It's the greatest, dude. It is so good.
Let's hear it. No, I love this theme. I think it's only marred by the fact that it had very, terrible sequels.
That's unfortunate, but every time I hear this theme, you're back in it.
You
it's
just
so
want to be
good.
a pirate again.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I think this is called something like Here Comes a Pirate or whatever. But it's so good.
It made Tiesto remix it.
What?
Yeah.
There's a Tiesto remix of
course.
this?
Yeah, it's a very famous remix.
Okay.
Don't ask me why I know it.
Yeah, I don't know why you know it. But yeah, everyone knows this theme song. And you can... It's one of the most instantly recallable ones I know.
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is. If you can turn something, it's pretty memorable. I am going to go with the second greatest score of all time.
All right.
What I consider to be. And you know what? I'm going to play one of the scores from the film, one of the themes from the film. But there are obviously many themes which are all like too memorable for it's just the best.
The suspense is building. Lord of the Rings.
Of course.
That pan flute.
That pan flute, man. Yeah. This score,
instant, it's
instant,
so
like my childhood, and it just I start thinking of the Shire.
Yeah,
like this is the theme when you go the Shire.
Yeah. Oh, back home at the Shire. Oh, it's such a great theme.
It's too good.
The entire score for all 3 of those movies is epic.
Just
Howard Shire, of course.
Yeah, he did genius. That's why it's very Titanic.
Yeah, that's because it's and then it takes a left turn.
Oh man, oh god. What a lot of people don't know is that the Titanic was actually just Gandalf and crew.
Yeah, that's true.
On a disturbed journey back to the Valor. So yes, I think it's too classic. It's
there's great moments throughout. Fly You Fools, if I remember correctly, had this epic dramatic music, and then complete silence once he falls. I remember.
The other amazing one is I think the theme for Rohan, which was like, shit, I was just singing it in my head. Oh god.
I trust your judgment though.
No, wait, I have to learn this.
Okay. This was one of my picks.
The Shire is just coming into my head. But yeah, so I think this is definitely one of the best. This is one of the classics for sure. So we have one pick left.
Oh, just the one?
Yeah, just one.
Do you want to just like tick mark some John Williams scores while we're at it? Because
let's go. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it goes without saying.
We don't have to play them because everyone knows them. But
Correct.
Harry Potter, for example.
Harry Potter.
I thought I distinctly remember watching the first teaser for Harry Potter at a time when I didn't even know what a teaser was really, and thinking this is perfect. Like if you came up with a soundtrack for Harry Potter, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, this is it. That's what a good film score does. It's become so iconic. You can't help but think about that when you think about
exactly.
That's insane.
And I'd also like to take this moment to shout out whoever did the film, the audiobook score for the audiobook version of Harry Potter. It starts with one of the funniest, coolest themes I've ever heard.
What, really?
It goes like do 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 do. It's perfect.
Nice.
You should check it out.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. We should do another episode where we just talk about like
audiobook scores.
Audiobooks and game scores, because game scores are excellent.
Game scores can be great.
The Monkey Island theme is also just really hilarious.
Good.
It's just stuck in my head also.
Yeah, and especially like the first two, because that's all you hear the entire time. More John Williams stuff. The Superman theme.
The Superman,
it's the most iconic theme song of all time.
It is second only to Star Wars.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Star Wars. And let's not forget Indiana Jones, man, which is one of my favorites. So apparently he had two...
man, the dude is unstoppable.
He's unstoppable. He did two scores for that film, apparently. He went to Spielberg. He's like, I have these two scores. Here's one. And it was like, and he's like, I have this other one which goes, and Spielberg was literally just like, just make them both one song. And that's how the score is
nice.
made.
Remix.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a Steven Spielberg remix.
And John Williams just rolled his eyes so far back into his head. He's like, oh God, these directors just want a mixture of both.
I did.
He went like a typical client. He's like, yeah, let's just combine the best parts of both.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we have two choices to finish off the episode.
So wait, whose turn is it?
It is my turn.
All right.
This is the greatest scene from the entire franchise, and this is my favorite. This is the greatest scene of all time.
Okay.
And is scored by what I think is the greatest score of all time, and it is another Hans Zimmer one.
All right.
It is a Batman one.
Oh.
It's from The Dark Knight Rises.
Of course.
And it is the track is called Why Do We Fall? Okay, and it is it's Bruce Wayne in the prison, and he has to jump without the rope.
Yes.
And this scene for me in the theater, just my heart lifted so high.
It's epic.
It's too epic because the moment he's about to make that jump, he's suddenly like caught off guard because bats fly out of the wall, and I was just like, it cannot get more epic than this. And yeah, this is just definitely one of the best scores I've ever heard in my life. Yeah,
amazing.
This is for me.
You can feel the scene.
This is the greatest piece of music ever made for film.
Absolutely.
Ever, as far as I'm concerned.
This, and I mean, this entire score is so iconic. The end of The Dark Knight, for example.
Yeah.
That, like, everybody knows that. You start those, like, strings and drums behind anything and it sounds epic.
Yeah. This is, I think, his greatest work. I mean, I was watching this one interview with Hans Zimmer where people were just like, people asking him, so what are you going to do after The Dark Knight? He's like, man, my whole life I've been looking to do the best work I've ever done. And I realized I was working on it when I did The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah?
Yeah. So that's what
he's, especially his stuff with Nolan has always been great. Like, Interstellar, again, is one of the most memorable themes
insane.
You'll find.
It's so good.
It reminds me a lot of Koyaanisqatsi. Do you know what that is?
What is that?
Koyaanisqatsi is this visual poem of a movie, which is basically music and all these time lapses of various cities.
Yeah, I think I've heard of something like this. Yeah.
And the theme for that is very similar to Interstellar for some reason.
Oh, interesting.
You should check that out. But for my pick of GOAT, this is a great one to go out on. I mean, it's tough to follow that, but I feel like it's a different flavor, so we should do this.
Yeah, let's do it.
You'll know it. Starts with sound effects and stuff. It's a movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When you get goats
Actually,
to do goats.
You should just start it from here.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh yes,
that is
very
epic.
up there.
In fact, we're fading out before it really kicks in. But
Yeah.
when you get goats to do goats, like you were saying.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, this is Daft Punk's the
D-Res,
sound.
right?
Yeah, this is D-Res.
Yeah.
And their entire soundtrack for this
Amazing.
movie is amazing. The
It
movie
just-
is, of
I
course,
just
Tron
see it-
Legacy.
I just see it as another Daft Punk album. You know, like
It's-
that's what I see.
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
They treat it like a
Yeah.
Daft Punk album, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Before
Brilliant.
they did Get Lucky and whatnot. But it's just so good, and it works perfectly for the movie.
Yeah,
Like,
what a genius idea.
yeah,
Whoever was that intern?
Yeah. I was like, hey, what about these Daft Punk guys, huh? And it's like Daft Punk was born after watching the first Tron movie. So
Exactly.
for them to come back and do Legacy
So true.
is just perfect.
Yeah, it was amazing. What an amazing... cool, that's a fitting end, actually.
Yeah,
All right.
we've covered a breadth of movie soundtracks, and I think we've shown that they can involve stuff other than swelling strings.
This is true, but I love the swelling
The
strings.
swelling strings are great.
If there's no...
but also this.
If there's no brass, I feel like that's a shame. But no,
Yeah.
but amazing
I mean,
selection.
Yeah, this is Duck Club version of a film score.
Let us know what you think. What is your favorite score? Which one do you think we've missed? We've probably missed a lot, but we've already put out a disclaimer saying that we only got so much time.
Is it the audio score for our podcast, which is coming in right now?
Yeah, probably is. So let us know. Contact geekfruit@gmail.com is where you can write to us, and you can find us on social media at geekfruithq on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yes.
Cool.
As you can see, we have a podcast listener in his natural habitat. Billions of years of evolution have led him to this point. He's on his way to work, and listening to podcasts makes his miserable day better. He will now head to work and use all his knowledge to communicate with other colleagues and possibly future mates. You can find more of his species on ivmpodcasts.com, your one-stop destination where you can check out all the coolest Indian podcasts. Happy listening.